Hey, hi, everybody. Hi. Someday, I'm going to learn how to start a podcast. I've only been on 3,000 of them. Welcome to another glorious episode of Jeff Has Cool Friends. My name is Jeff May, and I have a very cool friend with me. She is one of my favorite people to beat the crap out of me, but also she is an incredible author and a huge basketball fan, which was an interesting thing to find out, and also one of my cool friends. So let's give it up for Iva-Marie Palmer, everyone. Hi.
Hi. It's great to be here. I am honored to, I think the real news here is that I am someone's cool friend.
You are?
I mean, that's a big news. That's to be the cool friend. That's
you're like,
unheard
I
of.
didn't know that.
Not sure about that.
We met at my boxing gym, at our boxing gym. Although you haven't been there a lot. Have you? Oh, you go Sunday morning?
I go, what? Like, at least I try to go there once a week. But yeah, I do miss sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm more of a occasional person.
Yeah. It's funny.
An occasional regular.
An occasional, yeah, you're a casual, we like to say in this, which is why your jaw doesn't hurt as bad as mine does right now. But we met at the gym. You're just very friendly, very cool, and then it kind of, you were like, oh yeah, this is what I do, and you were telling me you write young adult books.
Yeah, young adult and middle grade novels for the last, oh God, I'm doing math. 16 years, I think. If I go back to when I started, like, by ghostwriting, 16
you were
years.
ghostwriting too.
Yeah, I ghostwrote when I
started?
it was. Well, I mean, I got the ghostwriting gig because I was messing around with stuff, and I, sent it in to audition for a ghostwriting thing. But
that's so weird. That it's like an audition for a ghostwriting gig.
Yeah. It came to me through, like, I worked at Disney in their web division, and someone I worked with had worked with a teen book publisher who, she said, oh, you write? Do you want me to send some of your fiction to my former coworkers? Yep. And I was like, sure. And then I tried out, and I did this kind of like Gossip Girl, but in Hollywood, and not as popular as Gossip Girl series for a while. What was
that? Are you allowed to say what that is when you like? What's the rules? Okay, so real quick, what are the rules when you are a ghostwriter?
I'm sure it's different for everyone. In this case, yeah, I was not supposed to say, because the author of the books was not a real person, and there were a few of us who were this person.
Oh, so the name was fake.
Correct.
It was a fake created author.
Exactly. Yes. So, and there were more than one of us.
Is that like Lemony Snicket? Is that like
he's a real person? That's
a real
Daniel
person's
Handler.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, but that's
took that name on to do those kids books, but he also writes adult books under his real name.
Okay.
I think when you ghostwrite, for a celebrity, it sometimes comes out. Like, I know everyone knows who Prince Harry's ghostwriter is now, because the guy got paid like a really high rate for ghostwriting.
I would think so.
Yeah. I mean, he got some, I guess he made a bestseller.
Weirdly, he made it all up too.
Yeah, he made it all up. It didn't happen. But I know, but then there's some where it's really a strict NDA and you are not to say. But since these were far in the past, I can tell you the name. I'm sure nobody cares.
But I'm actually very interested in that, because the non-disclosure agreements are fascinating. Mm-hmm. In this town, because they're like, there are some shows I've worked on where the NDA was like, don't tell anybody what happens. And then there's other ones where I'm on it and like, if you tell anybody what happens, we're going to sue the shit out of you for like $15 million.
Yeah. No, I mean, this was less clear. I think at this point, like 16 years on, and the books are not in print anymore. Oh. Don't think anyone will care. They were called the A-list.
The A-list.
The A-list. And they were about like teens in Hollywood. And I was brought on to do like kind of a retread of those books with new characters. Like, there were 10 before I started. And then I did 3 of them with like an all new set of characters.
And when you were doing 3, was there still this consortium of other authors working on these books at the same time?
At that point, no.
Okay.
But so I was the only one.
You were the steward of the A-list.
I was the steward of the A-list. And it was kind of at the point where YA was trending toward, paranormal romance with Twilight and whatnot. Oh. So then, it was like, okay, we're sick of reading about rich kids. Like, let's, we're going with glittery vampires. And then that was the end of my tenure with that. But then by that point, I was working on other stuff.
If you ghostwrite the A-list, can you like live in LA by just doing that? Or is that a thing where you're like, this doesn't pay enough, I have to continue moving?
Yeah, you cannot. I had been living in LA for about 2 years at that point, but I had a full-time job and I had to keep that. I had to keep that full-time job. I mean, really, writing in general, and as we're seeing with the writer's strike and everything, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are set for life when you get a book published. I think like that's a question I've gotten even at school visits, like, oh, how rich are you? And it's like, well, I have to do this forever, or I should maybe have other employment too. If you hit on something and you really, you get the bestseller list and the TV deal and all that stuff and the series and licensing, you can make that, ride that out for a while, but it's not like everyone's getting Stephen King type money.
Yeah, I mean, Stephen King, that happens when you put out a 700-page book every 3 months.
Yeah, I don't know how he does that.
I'll tell you how he does that. He clocks in to write every morning and he writes for 8 hours.
Yeah.
And then he clocks out, which is insane to me. As a creative, I'm like, what?
No, I can't do that. And I think when I read about him, it sounds like he's glued to his desk. And it also sounds, I mean, at this point, he doesn't have, I think, the same level of self-doubt or fear. Like, he's just like, I've done this so many times. Yeah, well, he started with it, though.
He barely has enough cocaine in his body to do it. Also, though, here's what I'll say, though. Yeah, not Stephen King, but also Stephen King cranking books out all the time. They weren't all good.
No, and I honestly think a lot of his work, I don't read all of it, but they're just so long. And I feel like maybe you get to a point as an author where they're like, well, we're not going to touch it. And maybe someone should. Like maybe someone, if you read Carrie, which is heavily edited, it's like 250 pages, so tight and like really well done. I find that so much more enjoyable than when,
than when you look at like
the giant book at Costco that he just put out. And it's like, I know that looks like value. Yeah. And yet it feels really long.
The value in a lot of books to me is being able to get through it.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of people want that now.
Just realize that's probably why I like Steinbeck. So it's probably why Steinbeck is my favorite. It's king of the novella right there.
A lot of like 100-pagers.
He was just like, you want a 45-page story? I got plenty of them.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think it's harder to do that in a lot of ways than to just put it all on the page. I just read the new Bret Easton Ellis out of pure curiosity, and it's like 723 pages long. Clearly not edited. I don't want him to get mad. He might listen. He
is a patron, so he's on the Patreon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Real surprised when I got that one.
Yeah, I'm sure. But wow, that book was like, I was like, he just told someone, I'm not going to do anything with this, so you can either publish it like this, or,
or you can
not have it. And they want the book. Once you're a name, they want your book, and they want that money and that press and whatever.
Yeah, he's like, I'm good enough that this is done.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And you read it and you're like, it could have used a little editing.
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah. And I'm not even an editor, but there are places where I was like, oh, dude, like, there's a scene where he gets sent. He's like a teenage kid, and like he gets sent to like go check out this dead horse that belongs to his girlfriend because the girlfriend's dad's like, hey, for insurance purposes, can you go sign some paperwork? I'm like, this doesn't even make sense. Like, I'm
Did
sure
you research
the people
this?
like at the stables could have signed that the horse had died.
Yeah, I always find that stuff interesting when you look at like a lot of the research that goes into some like I don't know if you'd say higher end, but like the really famous authors, when you look at like a Chuck Palahniuk or something like that, and he's like, oh yeah, so to do this, I worked in a hospital for 3 years or something like that, and you're like, what?
I mean, that's a major luxury if you can do that, for sure. Right? I mean, it is. I did a ton of research for my last YA novel that was set in 1979, and it was all
called
online.
Gimme Everything You Got.
That is correct. It was originally titled McMahon. That's a little tidbit for your listeners, but the publishers were like, we don't know if people will get that. It's really a story about this girl if we have a dude's name on the cover. Yeah. So, and which is fine. That happens. But that one I did do a lot of research in terms of like the most fun things were like watching a ton of commercials from 1979. I mean, really, you can do a lot.
I can with watching commercials.
Oh yeah, no, it was great. I'm like, I'm sitting here watching Hamburger Helper commercials like over and over again to get every detail right.
Energy,
for like one sentence in the book. So yeah, but
fast food commercials are insane from that time.
Oh yeah. Oh no, I mean they're all insane. Like there was that, just
the mascots really need a softened edge after the 70s. I don't know if you remember what 70s mascots looked like in TV for things like McDonald's and stuff like that, but they really did need to soften up those edges.
They all look like
bit.
Nightmares.
They were
right?
terrifying.
Like,
yeah.
Childhood nightmares. Like here, come to McDonald's Play Place where,
like
your worst nightmares come true.
Just a lot of Babadooks running around out there.
Yeah. They don't really have as many now. Like we never see like a Hamburglar or, like they don't use them the way they did.
I mean, I wonder about that. I wonder if Super Size Me had anything to do with it. I think about that a lot. I was going to say, we're not watching the stations where these things come up. Because remember, commercials aren't really a thing the way they used to be.
That's true. I mean, I know that the new McDonald's commercial, because I do still have cable, and I was watching,
and you have younger children too, right?
Watching the play-in games yesterday. Like there were a lot of McDonald's commercials, and they have Logan Roy, the Brian Cox from Succession, is the voice for like the chicken sandwich. And
that
I'm like,
man,
how do we like?
He never misses the opportunity to get that bag.
I know. Yeah. I admire it. I'm like, holy shit, he's just everywhere. I mean, and he's going to sell me whatever the they tell him to sell me.
But remember though, like when we were younger, McDonald's had commercials that would play in prime time.
Oh,
but they also had McDonaldland commercials that would play on mornings and stuff like that. And so we might not have access. You would have probably more access than I would. But then again, I'm still watching like Batman shows for pre-K for Tom and Jeff Watch Batman. But like you would probably see those more like if your kids were watching something to see. Is Grimace still doing shit?
I don't think Grimace does or Mayor McCheese or the Hamburglar, right? And there was like that bird that they announced.
Birdie.
I think once like we have chicken now, so we will have a bird.
Yeah, birdie.
In like a purple outfit. It didn't make sense.
And the McNuggets.
Yeah, and the McNuggets. Like, I had all the little McNugget cards. Oh, yeah, like I love those. I was telling my kids about like how much better Happy Meal prizes were when I was a kid.
Which is wrong, because the reason that we say that is because, no, things were better when I wasn't, paying taxes.
That's true. But they do agree with me because, they're getting them now. And it's like, they've made them like, oh, you get like a Marvel guy, but he doesn't do anything. He just kind of stands there. Like, and they're like, oh, you had a car that rolled and like, they still get like Hot Wheels and stuff every once in a while. Yeah. But I do think in terms of commercials and kids, like mine don't like the whole idea of Saturday morning cartoons, and you don't get a choice of what you are going to watch, and it was exciting though. You'd wake up and it was an event, or like what was on after school was an event. Like I'd want to be done with my homework so I could watch Double Dare.
Streaming they
don't get it. They don't get commercials. And when they saw them, they were like amazed. Like commercials were like actually cooler than the show. Like, look at these toys. They're trying to get me to buy. This
is going to cause a lot of people listening to get very angry at me because I haven't made the show yet. But in researching Radvertising, which was a show that I want to do about 90s commercials. It's literally about extreme advertising between 1992 and 1999.
That's awesome.
And like watching them, and like you see like that is also a frozen point in time that you can never go back to because the commercials were so like, some of them were very mean spirited and like they were beating you with the ad.
Yeah.
They were like, drink Sprite, you. And you're like, oh God.
The whole extreme thing. Yes. Like, if you're not doing this, you're just a piece of shit who might as well die. Like,
so I've watched, like, I've probably consumed, I'm guessing through YouTube, probably about 20 hours of just commercials between 1991 and 1999. And it's hard.
It's hard.
You know what's the craziest one? Here's a preview for you Radvertising people that are probably pulling your hair out because I haven't had this show after teasing it a year and a half ago. Whoops. Mountain Dew was a country beverage. It was a country ad. It was pickup trucks. It was hay. It was on the farm soda.
I feel like I remember that.
Well, it was created in the Appalachian Mountains,
basically
as something to cut moonshine with. It was a moonshine mixer.
It was.
Yeah.
Okay. Did they hype that in the commercial though, or no?
The bottle, the original cans was like an old moonshiner.
I mean, when you think about the name of it, Mountain Dew, I mean, that sounds like, hey,
that's right.
You just woke up in the mountains.
Put a little of the Mountain Dew in with Grandpa's pepper. But then they made the shift to that extreme around 91 or 92, which is
that like X Games area.
It's pre-X Games,
okay.
but it's the first start where they start getting into the more like, you know, live fast, live hard kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a real reverse Kid Rock pivot. Okay. Where like it went from being this intense, you know, like Kid Rock went from being this intense, filthy thing to be like, I'm a country music dip.
Yeah,
and Mountain Dew
for that, you know.
Mountain Dew started as like the country music thing, and then it went into that extreme.
Yeah,
like,
because now I would just associate Mountain Dew with like, you know, just like I feel like
gamer
the
fuel.
Jackass era and then gamers and, you know, dudes staying up all night, like the Jolt Cola faction and Mountain Dew coincided, you know?
Yeah, the Mountain Dew, it was like for like probably 15 to almost 20 years, it was really just like extreme in your face, surfing, skating, doing whatever. And then it was gaming, which is like the opposite, which is, you know, it's like, well, now you're on the couch.
You're still, but there's a need to feel like you are doing something when you're game, right?
Yeah.
And so then it's, and you need to stay up all night and you need, you know, fuel for your brain and
it's weird. It is weird. Do you have a favorite soda?
I'm still a Diet Coke head. I shouldn't be. Like, people will scold you. I mean, I get a Diet Coke. I get a big gulp after boxing all the time. And I'll like be walking. I know it's terrible. I go and I get it.
You're
I'll
just
be walking past the
your
gym,
bones.
like, you know, and Adam, who is our boxing instructor, you know, the guy who runs the gym, like sees me and I'm just so ashamed. Like, you know.
Don't worry. It's just cream.
Yeah.
It's just cream from the coffee thing.
Yeah. It's embarrassing.
Yeah,
What about you? Favorite soda?
It's Dr. Pepper.
Oh yeah, Dr. Pepper is really good.
Yeah, or Mr. Pibb, because I have a rule with soda where I only drink it in the movies.
Okay,
but
smart.
It's a way to not go cold turkey, because if I go cold turkey, if you break, then you binge.
Yeah, you really binge.
Like, and I am definitely the person that will binge.
Okay,
there's no getting around the binge for me. So I set those rules where it's like, you're allowed to have soda at the movies. So I'll drink, you know,
then you'll go to
big
any
gulp.
Movie.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of movies. Yeah.
You need a big gulp.
Like at least twice a day.
Yeah.
Huge habit. But no, it is one of those things too where, you know, like I work really hard and then I have to remind myself that enjoying something that I eat or drink is not sabotaging my hard work.
I agree with that. I mean, I think I like that more than like that you have to do the hard work to earn the thing. Like, I think it's more just, you could have them as separate. Because I think I read something the other day where I sort of hate where it's like everything has to be connected to some outcome. Like, we found that older people like benefit, like their heart health benefits from gardening. And it's like, what if they just like gardening? Can they just like gardening for its own sake? Like, I mean, because with boxing, I've learned to tell myself it's not for like the fitness or, you know, weight loss or whatever. It's I really just like going, you know,
it's fun. Yeah.
It's fun.
It's a good community.
Yeah.
It's one of those communities where if you have enough personalities to make it this way, it can be a very non-toxic environment.
Yeah.
Which in recreational exercise is harder than you'd realize.
I mean, that's why I keep going to our gym. I'm sure there are other boxing studios where I would not have continued to go over. I know sporadic and I'm casual or whatever, but
you're a cash.
But yeah, it's not like our gym is nice. It's friendly overall. And you know, there's none of that, like, you know, you don't belong here kind of stuff.
Well, it's funny because I didn't realize that I am scary.
Oh, see, you've always been nice to me though. Like,
sure.
Yeah.
I didn't realize. I saw a picture of me with somebody that I thought was a similar size to me.
Okay.
And Adam had posted a photo on Adam's boot camp's thing. And I looked at it and I noticed he was looking up at me and I was a good 3 inches or so taller and like really looking scary. And I'm like, I see it now. So, but that's also why I try to be so welcoming and opening to people and like, let me help. Like, let me show you how to do this without making sure that you feel like you're in danger.
Oh yeah. When he's put me in the ring with you, I've never, like, I'm not saying like you're not, I'm sure you could beat the shit out of me. But I don't feel like you.
It's all I think about.
Like I don't think you want to beat the shit out of me. So I don't feel nervous. I think I'm more nervous. And I don't know. I've never hit anyone. I
had to trick you into hitting me.
Punched anyone. And I don't even think I did a very good job.
But you did it. And that's the way you get through it.
And I feel like I have to hit you again at some other point because that's the part that I haven't made the leap over yet. I can just hit people.
We'll make that the Patreon exclusive content. Okay, it'll just be videos of you just slugging me in the guts.
Slugging the shit out of you. Because that other girl, I mean, she just got in. She's like wailing on you. And I'm like, I can't. I just...
she seems like she's working something out there.
Yeah.
I'm like, do I look like your husband or something?
Yeah. And I just have this thing where I'm like... And maybe it's like some like inner sense of bravado, like, oh shit, I better not hit this person because I'm gonna hit them so hard it's gonna break their jaw.
People are more afraid of hitting somebody than they are of getting hit. That's something that I've noticed in my travels doing this. And so I have to oftentimes trick people into getting the first hit in because they're afraid. And so I will literally headbutt their glove and be like, all right, we did it. Yeah. You'll notice I'm okay.
Okay.
And I think I did that with you where I said, you'll notice I'm fine. Yeah. I'm still talking to you. I'm not mad. I'm still smiling. Let's go.
Yeah.
Which is fun. Now that does turn on me when I'm fighting with the bros on Wednesday. Because Wednesday it's just like all these guys that are in here. And I'm just like I'm the station. And I'm like, yeah, good job. And then if I'm saying good job and the next thing I know, I catch a hook to the jaw, which happened twice this week. Or I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm going to feel this for a couple days.
Was that Eris?
It was. Yeah. It was. He clipped me. He apologized, but he hit me with a right hook right here on the jaw. Right on the end. Like, oh, sorry, man. I'm like, it's fine. It's okay. Because it was.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, I'm like, I'm going to feel this tomorrow.
Do you feel it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Like even opening my jaw, I'm like, oh. All right. So a lot of times I'll have to leave the gym and I have to put my mouth guard on my mouth and clench my jaw to realign it a little bit.
Ooh, ouch.
It's not as bad as it sounds. Okay. But also that is a psycho thing. Gimme Everything You Got.
Okay.
It's a book that you wrote. This is the most recent solo book that you did right there.
Yeah, the most recent one to be published. I have another one coming out in June. That was a co-author project. But yeah, that was my last YA. It came out in 2020, which was an excellent time to have a book come out. I'm sure any writer on here knows. Like July 2020, that was when you wanted.
Is that sarcastic or is that real? Because it also seems like that is a good time to put out media.
Not for me. Like, no. I mean, I think there were heightened book sales, but if you were kind of an author, sort of, I hadn't had a YA book out in a while, and
oh, so you're not going to get like the browsing pickups that you would at a Barnes
you don't
and Noble.
Get that. The publisher was originally going to have this big kind of marketing push for me, and I was supposed to go out to New York to talk about it, and then that was supposed to be in like early April, and obviously early April, no one was traveling at all. What happened?
What?
I mean, nothing. The flight got canceled. No. April 2020, nothing happened. And then it sort of became like 2 weeks before it came out, well, here we're gonna, put some ads on Instagram, or whatever. It was very
like,
small.
We have to pivot.
Yeah, and then there was also like just a lot going on socially, like social justice. Why there were people in the streets. It was not like a great time to be a blonde lady promoting your book.
Nice book, Karen.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it just felt very weird. So I personally didn't even do a lot either, knowing that people's eyeballs weren't there, and it just looked bad.
It's hard to promote anyway.
It's awful.
It's embarrassing.
It's the worst thing I have to do. I hate it more than anything. And I'm not good at Instagram or I'm not even particularly good at Twitter. I'm great at Twitter, like throwing out a one-liner.
I'm going to disagree with you on that one. You're very good at Twitter.
Oh, well, thank you.
You are. So it's 1979, the age of roller skates and feathered bangs, Charlie's Angels and Saturday Night Fever. And Susan Clintock is a junior in high school with a lot of sexual fantasies, but not a lot of sexual experience. No boy, at least not any she knows, has been worth taking a shot on. That is, until Bobby McMahon arrives. Bobby is foxy, he's charming, and he's also the coach of the brand new girls soccer team. Oh. Sure, he's totally 100% completely off limits. Sure, Susan doesn't stand a chance, but that doesn't mean she can't try out for the team to get closer to him. And Susan Clintock has always liked the challenge. Between the endless drills and grueling practices, she discovers something else. She might actually love soccer, but being a part of the first girls team at a school means dealing with some other challenges. As friendship shifts, she finds her real passions might lie in places she didn't expect when the season began, and that discovering who she is will mean taking risks both on and off the pitch. Love, lust, soccer. Acclaimed author Iva-Marie Palmer returns with a fresh, funny, feminist coming-of-age comedy about learning to take your shot on the things that truly matter. I wanted to read that because I am fascinated by that write-up.
Okay, how so?
Who is this for?
So this, okay, yes. So this is ostensibly for, YA is supposed to be teenagers. 14 and up is, I think, the label on there.
Yes.
It has a big crossover readership too, which is, like women in their 20s, 30s, 40s. I think with this book, what's been interesting is there are a lot of readers like my age who kind of remember the set. Like I don't remember.
It's a good vintage, right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't remember the 70s, right?
Yeah, no. And but there's also been, I've gotten like emails and stuff from girl soccer players and other girls like who are in high school still who really dug the book. Right. Yeah, which has been great because I was a little worried, like, am I doing this for myself, for my age group and not the teenagers? Mm-hmm. But the themes are there, I think. So it's for everybody, I want to say. But what was I getting at? Sorry.
It's all right. I'm under Burbank Airport, so maybe the fact that a plane flies over us every 15 minutes is...
I do that too.
Yeah.
We're by the airport as well. But yeah, so it's for everybody. But for sure, like one thing I really, really dislike is writing books with, I mean, I'll do it and I can do it. I have done it, but I love writing about a book where there aren't cell phones and social media because it becomes such a huge plot point.
Yeah.
And for the sake of this, I really, what happened was, I was talking to an editor and his kids go to this school where honestly, I guess the soccer coach was this hot guy that all the moms were lusting over, and he was picking up
I was that guy at
guy.
my old school. I was the girls soccer coach. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you were? Okay.
Was, yeah.
Okay. And were the moms hitting on you?
One of the moms told me in private that if I had heard what the other moms were saying in the stands, she's like, you would either run into the stands or leave and never come back.
Yeah. So, I mean, and it's okay to do that to you. Like we couldn't do that to, like we've talked about this. I've talked about this with friends. Like, it's okay. I don't know. Like it's funny because it's so weird. We were talking about that the other day with two parents, like, why is it okay to like say this about, the male coaches, but not the female, and it's.
Oh, I got questions because the boys coach was a woman and I was the girls coach. And so people side-eyed us.
Really?
They were like, why is the guy with the girl? And I said, I'm not coaching those animals.
Yeah.
The girls were so easy to coach. The boys, they were nightmares. I was like, they are 8th grade. Are you kidding? I wouldn't touch them with a 10-foot pole.
How did the female coach do with them?
She had mom energy.
Okay.
She was like a really cool, like she was like I wouldn't call her cool, but she was kind of one of those people where she knew how to be a disciplinarian to young boys who were being a pain in the ass.
Okay.
And for me, I'd be like, hey, stop around.
Yeah.
And my girls weren't like that. If there was ever anything, it was like there would be some mean girl would happen. I'd be like, I heard some mean girl happening. We're going to stop that right now.
Yeah. And I think if you were like, I do think as a woman, like I think I'd have trouble, like the mean girl I'd be like, oh, I hate the mean, like I'd have flashbacks and not be able to handle it well, where I could probably deal with the boys because I think I could just be like, let's stop around.
I really only started coaching because I got like kind of blackmailed into it by the principal.
Oh,
he was like, hey, we need a soccer coach for the girls. And I was about to say no. And he's like, they won't have a team or a season if we don't have a coach.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I guess I can't say no now. And I was not good at, I was like reading like fundamental, like, so you want to coach youth soccer? Pamphlets. I was reading pamphlets to figure out how to coach.
I've never played soccer. My school did not have a soccer team. I mean, this was sort of this was set in my hometown. Like we sort of transplanted the idea of this like hot coach entering a school. And when we were talking about it, it was like, it would be interesting if it was in a school that had never had a girls soccer team or maybe no girls sports at all, and that was where the Title IX and the historic aspect came in. So, there are people online on Goodreads who are like with that write up, like, oh, is this a teacher-student relationship story that's wrong?
That
and they
is,
don't want to hear it.
yeah, that is a scary
And,
thing when you see that.
Sure. And the whole story, the whole thing was, I mean, I do think there's been a few reviewers who are like, that is just so icky, having a crush on the teacher. That would never happen. I'm like, okay, but I don't know that that's true.
That would never happen?
Like, I would never have a crush on a teacher. I'm like, okay, you wouldn't.
I had stalkers.
But I'm pretty sure that girls, even now in today's era, probably still get a crush on a hot teacher. It doesn't mean they're going to pursue it or the teacher would. But basically,
who would
maybe a
ever
nice guy.
say that? That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard as a review, because that is one of the most common thing that happens.
Yeah, and it was weird. There's just a lot of book reviewers now where if they don't condone the actions in the book, they don't want to read it.
Something isn't good because they don't like the character. It's like, do you not understand how fiction works?
Yeah, I mean, it's and I'm like, no, you're not supposed to think like, good job, Susan. Like, this is why you should try out for the team because you're really horny. Like, you know, but she does, and the point of it is that, you know, she took a chance for. She knows in the back of her head, like, nothing's going to happen, but I could hang out with this guy because at least he's not a slime ball like all the guys I go to school with. And then she ends up kind of...
We hope.
And he's not. That was like kind of laid out from the beginning. I didn't want him to be a slime ball. I actually wanted him to be someone who really was passionate, like wanted girls sports, you know, wanted to coach the team.
A good guy.
Yeah, a good guy. He has his own things going on, but in terms of like student relationships, that's not his style.
Now, I have a question about Gimme Everything You Got.
Sure.
Whose idea was this? Was it your idea to write this book, or was it somebody that's like, here's what we're looking for?
This was like a collaboration. You know, when I worked with Alloy for a long time now, and, you know, I feel like they're actually almost like family to me. Like, we talk about like, oh, you know, like the editor that I was talking to about this coach, he had seen a tweet I sent, and he sent me a message about like this guy on the hot coach, and we were riffing on that, just joking around. And he's like, you know, it'd be cool if you could write something really funny kind of around this, but like, you know, with a different take. And then we sort of riffed on ideas. But this is mine. I mean, this is even set in like Powell Park, the town where she lives, is a version of the town where I grew up.
Where's that?
It's Oaklawn, Illinois, where there was not a girls' soccer team. There was a boys' soccer team. I think there might be one now. Soccer, though, was always too. Like, Chicago's like the Bears,
the Bulls, the Bears, the Cubs,
the Sox, you know, the Hawks.
The Hawks, yeah.
And soccer was regarded as like, well, you're pretty, you're girly if you play soccer.
What are they, the Fire now? Is that what it is?
I think they do have, the Fire. And they had a team called something with like a B logo. It was an indoor soccer team. I cannot remember. I had it in the original draft of the book, and I can't remember the name of it. But they had a team. They had a bar in town with like a logo on the side, and everyone was like, no one watches soccer. Soccer is
nobody.
You know, if you're not manly, you can play soccer.
Yeah.
That was the attitude. So like, there's that.
By the way, that
attitude.
Maintained for quite a long time. Yeah,
for sure. And so like
because
that
it's
was
not a contact sport.
No, it's not a contact sport, and it's from Europe. Like, you know, it's not, you know, there was this whole notion of like, it's European dudes who wear like,
I think we're going really hard to avoid saying that people used to say that soccer is gay.
Yes.
Like, I think that's the thing that like was the very, and obviously that's,
and that was when gay was an insult.
Yeah. Like a toxic thing. And now you look at it and be like, I don't understand why that's an insult. It's just how a person is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But at the time, like, you know,
not long ago.
And it was even as close as the 90s. It's not even like just in the 70s they said it was gay. It was, 90s, you know, like the 90s. I remember the boys soccer team, you know, like really having to fight not to just be called gay all the time. Yeah. Which now it's like, cool, we're gay. It's awesome.
It's embarrassing to look back at that sort of behavior and recognize it and be like, oh, Jesus.
Yeah. But I was going a long way to not say gay. But yeah, so this was me, and you know, and it was, you know, it's a collaboration when I work with them, which is great because I can say like, you know, I don't think this is hitting, or, you know, something I'm working on now, for example, like I just hit, and I don't want to talk about the project, but
not the one that's coming out in June.
No, this is something I'm working on for the future. You know, it's great to have that like as you go, instead of like writing the whole book sometimes and feeling like, I think I got this wrong, like, you know, and I wish I had someone to talk to about it. It's kind of like having a group or like TV writing where, you know, you're in a room. In a sense. Yeah. Nice. And they're really good at what they do. And they want, you know, they figure out that I like to do funny stuff. You know, there's a lot of heavy.
You are very funny, and I think you're funnier than you give yourself credit for.
Well, thank you. I don't know. I don't know if I'm funny or not, but you know, I think I appreciate that.
No, it's there. It's your Twitter I always find very funny.
But I'm milking my kids like for their commentary, you know. So
that's
I never
funny.
Know. Yeah, I guess it's recognizing when they say something funny is funny.
And then, but the way you relate it is funny as well.
Okay, well, I appreciate that.
At Iva-Marie, Ivamarie on Twitter. But yeah, you are very funny. So
thank you.
That.
So are you.
I mean,
you have to be.
If I'm not, people are like, what happened?
Yeah.
You got broken. Yeah. I always feel like sometimes I'm like,
is this broken to be funny though?
Is this too try hard sometimes or like sometimes I'll tweet something that I think is the funniest thing and it's 11 likes. And I'm like, you know what, you people.
But that might be Elon too. He's not letting people see
he's just not funny at all.
Oh, he's not funny at all, but he also something happened where like I don't think like when you can see the view numbers and it's like no one's seen anything.
I'll blame the algorithm.
Blame the algorithm.
Certainly not my joke writing.
No.
Not being able to blast off at all times. Which happens now. I've gotten into trouble for just being like, hey, you seem like a huge piece of shit that sucks. And then people are like, you can't say that. I'm like, oh, but I did.
Yeah.
I've lost jobs because of my Twitter presence.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They're like, you can't say that about, I don't want to, I mean, people know, the people listening know, but like if there are large corporations that I work for where they're like, hey, you can't call the president a racist because his fans buy our stuff. And I'm like, but I'm going to do that.
Yeah. Oh.
And they're like, but our name is in your bio. And I'm like, yeah, maybe you should say that too.
Yeah.
And they're like, get the f out of here.
So they want to take you out. They want you to
like,
tone yourself down.
They did. And they asked me to. And I was like, no. And they were like, all right, well, bye. And I was like, oh, what? All right. Like, I mean, I'm so much happier now. I don't have to go to an office. I just do this on a couch.
That's true. That's true.
I get to choose who comes on the show.
Yeah.
Instead of, I don't have to pass it through a filter. Is it okay if I bring this person on?
No, that's more fun.
Yeah,
and you don't have to worry that they might love the racist president and, you know, want to talk about how much.
Some of them might have.
That's true.
Some of them sent me Blue Lives Matter messages during the riot or the riots. I don't want to call it the riots because that's not what it was. During the protests.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, oh, you don't want to leave this to me in print. Like, you don't want to say this to me where I can screenshot
they'll be like, oh, no, but it's not that can't we agree that blue lives also matter? Yeah. Like, you know, it's,
I'm like, no.
That's their job. Like, they're fine.
It's not real.
Yeah.
They're the most protected people. And also, no, they don't. Yeah. So, but beyond that too, yeah, that it was very interesting. But now, so Gimme Everything You Got, that was sort of the most recent publication where it's just you.
Just me.
Now you also have series. It's called Gabby Garcia's Ultimate Playbook.
Yes.
What's going on with that? Because that's middle grade as well.
That's
right?
middle grade. That's like a little older in terms of time. It came out. I think the first book came out in 2017. Yeah, and that came about. I guess I could talk about that, how it came about. I had submitted some stuff to HarperCollins, an editor there who I really adore, and she, you know, and it was at the time of the paranormal romance vampire stuff. This was a book about, it was a comedy about a mall, and it was not, she loved it, but she took it to their sales meeting. They're like, we're not going to be able to sell a funny thing right now. So a year or so later, she came and asked if I wanted to try out for this book that, you know, they had this character in mind. Mm-hmm. So I tried out. And that's ultimately like a person. It's written journal style with illustrations, and that was really fun, which I could get into. But it's about like a character definitely is battling like some anxiety and perfectionism, and also trying to play sports and keep her life. Like she thinks if she can keep everything on this like winning streak, then nothing will go wrong in her life. So it was relatable for me. Yeah,
you really love writing about sports.
So
or you really habitually write about sports.
It's weird. I'm not a good baseball player. I as I mentioned before we started recording, I stunk at baseball. I was good at hitting, but that's about it. I am like a dilettante. I do not know any sport inside and out. And yet I find they're great in stories because there are so many ways you can like.
Oh yeah, there's highs and lows and metaphors and and
it gives your
goals.
Characters something to do.
Yeah,
it's
something
not
relatable.
just talking, something relatable to do. Funnily, like it's really hard to do to sell sports books because the word from publishers is like, well, kids who read are like the bookie to play kids. Sports. Yeah. They want to delineate that thing. Like if you're a reader, you're completely sedentary and you don't do anything, which is a shame.
I really hate that.
Yeah, I do too. Do too.
I tried very hard to push the Renaissance existence of like doing all of the things. And
I have a 12-year-old and he plays basketball nonstop, but he reads like a ton. I mean, he reads more than like a lot of so-called avid reading adults I know. And he probably prefers reading to even like video games. I think he's a little...
What a nerd.
Yeah, he's a total nerd. But yeah, like... It's
You're like, we talk about him. Me and my husband, we talk about him all the time. We're just making fun of him the whole time.
Yeah, we just rip on him.
Huge nerd.
Yeah, total nerd. No, he's great. And it's great. And he's proof. And like there are other kids who are proof. And I just think it's a shame to like put boxes around people. Like if you like video games, you don't want to play sports, or... if you play sports that you're not interested in, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, how are you boxing yourself that lamely?
Yeah.
Like that seems weird to me that people do that. Yeah. One of the things, here's something interesting, by the way. I don't know if you know this, but one of the segments that we have here is that we have producers. Okay. We have people that they pay money and I say their name on the show.
I know. I listened.
It is wild to me. And from older episodes, you might have heard me read 100 names, but we have ratified the Patreon to make that a little bit more limited, a little bit more of a premium, and a little bit less of half of the show. Okay. To make it was getting long.
Okay.
It was getting long.
Well,
so if you head on over to patreon.com/JeffMay, not only do you get early access to uncensored episodes with bonus content like Jeff Has Cool Friends, but you can also sign up for the producer tier and you can have me read off your name. For example, we'd like to give a shout out to Mindfreak555, Dan Hackroyd, Dan Adamski, World's Humblest Man. It's a good brag.
That's a good brag.
Norm from Cheers, Bart Fardigan, Lef, Dr. DNA. The Tubi Terror Bunny thinks you should watch more Rutger Hauer films.
That's a whole username?
That was somebody paid money to have me say that out loud. I think it's Rutger Hauer.
It was.
Shout out to Mr. Billy Beck. Hi, your friendly neighborhood mortician here to encourage you to complete an advanced directive. It's easy, just Google it and then tell people and put it somewhere highly accessible. People are paying to put PSAs up here.
That's very nice.
I think she can write this off now.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'm going to do that when I leave. That.
Yeah, you should probably do that.
I should.
Do you have a will?
I do not.
Yeah.
I didn't bring a copy with, at least.
Like, did you bring your will like I asked?
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I'll write you into it later.
Thank you. I'd appreciate that. I had to talk to my mom. I had to have the will talk with her where I was awful. Like, it was basically like, hey, you need to make me be the executor of the will.
I heard you talking about that on your episode with Lori Kilmartin.
Oh, yeah.
How awkward that is.
It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It is really uncomfortable. Because you're like, you're going to die.
Yeah.
And that's weird. It felt gross to say it, but I also wanted to be like, hey, let's not destroy things here. Shout out to the scene in Meet Joe Black where Brad Pitt dies. Shout out to I haven't had carbs or sugar in a couple weeks. I fantasize about deli sandwiches now.
Aww,
I do too.
I feel bad. You don't have deli sandwiches?
You know what's funny is you saw me doing something very rare when you walked in. I was eating my lunch, which was one piece of buttered toast. I avoid bread. I try to, and it's good, rough. But I went pretty heavy into bread when I was young, and it didn't pay off.
Yeah, no, it can really. I mean, well, bread in the 90s, we were told like just eat bread all the time.
12 slices of bread a day. Yeah. I do a whole bit about it where like everything I learned in health class was a lie.
Oh, it's awful.
They're like, weed is a gateway drug. Now it's medicine. You eat all the bread on the planet, and acne will go away.
Yeah.
And those were all lies.
Total lies.
Like kind of like where I want to go beat the shit out of my old health teacher for lying about that.
I mean, the food pyramid was not her fault. It was basically, because I remember it. It was like pictures of bagels and like the food pyramid.
No.
Oh, it was him.
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, their fault. I'm sorry.
I don't want to say I was going to beat a woman.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, maybe. Mine was pretty beatable, Mrs. Jenkins.
Damn it, Mrs. Jenkins.
Yeah.
Shout out to producer Mrs. Jenkins.
Was it her?
Oh yeah, word. This is gonna be out. I do like a good deli sandwich.
You don't get them anymore?
Sometimes I do. Sometimes I'll go to Hi-Mart and I'll get the pastrami Ben's Way.
Oh yeah, that's good. I mean, I love a good sandwich. I can't remember the last good one I've had.
What's your
there's
favorite?
a guy on Twitter who just catalogs sandwiches around LA, and especially the best ones under $10, which almost don't exist anymore. And I would love to try them all, but they're like far away and
that's sometimes we have to travel to places.
I love a roast beef with like, horseradish and like
a nice vintage
like
roast beef.
Good roll. Yeah, like on a baguette or like a
That's like a French dip.
French. Well, it's not quite a French dip because you've got to dip it if it's a French dip. I just like, roast beef sandwich or like a ham and cheese, like the French baguette with like good ham, Swiss cheese, and like ton of butter and pickles. Which
there it is. Yeah.
There's not a single vegetable on that.
You're close to a Cuban sandwich in that regard. Yeah, you could go to Porto's right down the street and get
if I want to wait like 8 hours to eat.
Not worth it.
No, it's never worth it. I love Porto's, but I love Porto's if like I show up somewhere and they have Porto's.
If someone delivers Porto's to you, that's fine. But for those of you, because I know this, people come to LA, they visit, and everybody's like, you got to go to Porto's. Because Yahoo said it was like the best sandwich in LA, or the best eatery in LA was Porto's. Yahoo.
Does Yahoo even like
exist? I know.
Well, it's when Yahoo was over in Burbank. It was probably where they got it like sent to their offices, and some dude was like, "Sure, I'll write about Porto's."
This place has a line out the door, no matter what. Mm-hmm. The food is fine.
Yeah, it's fine. It's
fine.
Okay. It's not
fine.
It's not going to.
It's not where I prefer to
mind.
eat, even in Burbank.
No, I know. Where's your favorite place in Burbank, though?
My favorite place to eat in Burbank?
Yeah.
For breakfast, it's Coral Cafe.
Oh, really?
They always are above average.
Okay.
They're not always good, but they're always about it. And you can't mess with breakfast. They nail breakfast.
Okay.
If I want the best service in Burbank is Los Amigos Mexican restaurant on Olive Ave.
Oh, okay. That used to be something else, like a Michael's or something. It was like one of the first places I ate in Burbank.
Los Amigos has the best. You will never see the bottom of your glass.
Okay.
Or if your salsa and bean dip is about to be out, they swoop in like Batman. Like they don't bother you during your meal, but they keep an eye on you, and as soon as you have a need, they are there to fix it with a smile on your face.
Yeah,
I love that place. The food's pretty good. Like the food
I've never been there. But it sounds like they're sort of ninja-like.
They're on it.
Okay,
they're just real. Like I've had maybe one experience where I was like, oh, I had to wait 2 minutes for them to come and check on my drink. Like this is weird. So there's that. Hi-Mart is a great sandwich spot, but that's not Burbank. That's North Hollywood. So. And if we were going to be like in downtown Burbank and I was being forced to eat somewhere, it might be Barney's.
I haven't been to Barney's since I honestly had like really bad. Like it was just like everything was cold and I don't want to get Barney's does
nachos really well. Okay. They do the nachos that isn't the sauce, but it's actual cheese.
Okay.
And that's what I need on a nacho. I don't want this like movie theater. Like
I don't want anything that you can pump onto my food.
Yeah, right. So how about you for Burbank? What do you love? Where's your spots?
Burbank. That's a good question. I do come to NoHo. I go to Fat Dog a lot. I used to go to Hi-Mart when I used to work on the corner of Lankershim and Magnolia. Yeah. That was where Disney's
one of
offices
the
were.
Worst intersections ever
in
the world.
I don't feel like I eat in Burbank a lot. I do like Don Cuco, and that's probably why I haven't gone to Los Amigos, because like I think once we went in there and ordered margaritas, and they were like, the giant margarita is actually like as cheap as 2 of these small ones, and I appreciated that. So I was like, okay,
they're like, get up.
They're like, get up. Exactly.
I ate at Don Cuco relatively recently. It's Oaxacan style Mexican, which is not my favorite.
Okay. So you know the difference. I'm just like, did you give me a giant drink?
That's fair.
And some chips?
I don't drink, so that's also like I lose the margarita benefit of that. But I tend to like non-Oaxacan, like Oaxacan style tends to have like different, it uses different spices. They like mole is Oaxacan. It's that like, and I don't really like mole. I don't like the like sweet sweet to bitter mixed with like a little bit of heat.
Yeah.
I like something where it's just like we put hot sauce and salsa on your like.
Yeah. Okay. No, I get it. I haven't had their mole that much at Don Fruco, but you're right. It's not like spicy Mexican. Like and I like spicy food. Yeah. But yeah, I'm having trouble thinking of where I eat in Burbank. Like,
there's a lot of good stuff. There's North End Pizza is great on Magnolia if you like pizza.
I like Dino's a lot.
Dino, I lived right on the same street as
and
Dino's
East
for a
Coast
while.
Style, they've told me, which I don't
they're
know if that's
close
true.
to East Coast style. Yeah, they're not too far
off. That was the first
off,
acceptable pizza I found after moving here from Chicago. Like, because I'm not a deep dish person. I like Chicago.
People from Chicago are not deep dish people, really.
No, and it's crazy, and it's one of my pet peeves is that everyone thinks like.
No, Lou Malnati's is not known for its deep dish. Yeah. They're known for its
They have nice thin crust. Yeah. And that Chicago is always the most violent, which is not true on a per capita basis. And that our pizza is all deep dish. It's not true. And it's really, and that our only baseball team is the Cubs. Because as soon as I say I'm from Chicago, people will be like, Cubbies. And I'm like, I'm a White Sox fan.
Well, it's just people hope you're a Cubs fan. Because
they don't even know the White Sox exist is
funny.
What really happens. Yeah. I think even in Chicago, like people forget the White Sox exist.
North Side v South Side at that point in time.
Yeah.
That was good. You ever have my favorite burrito I've ever had in my life is at a gas station in North Hollywood.
Oh, where?
It's the Surf and Turf burrito at Cilantro Mexican Grill. Take 170, get off on the Sherman Way West exit.
Okay.
And you get fed right into it.
Cilantro
Mexican Grill. They have a surf and turf burrito.
See, and I love restaurants that are at like a gas station because I feel like you have to be really confident to open a restaurant at a gas station, especially one that serves fish.
You gotta try that burrito.
Yeah.
It is
okay.
I took Valerie, I tried to get her to go and she would be like, I'm not gonna eat a burrito in a gas station. I'm like, just come with me and try it.
Yeah.
What are you sacrificing? One meal? And then finally she had it and she was like, all right. And I'm like, are we done being a snob now? Are we done being a snob?
No, it's good,
Sorry,
right?
it's not a $40 burrito that you got in West Hollywood.
What's in the surf and turf burrito from the gas station?
Carne asada.
Okay.
Fat ass shrimp.
Okay.
There's a salsa. There's like a kind of crema, like a ranch style crema.
I love that.
And then your various vegetables.
Okay,
and
so
things
now
like
I have
that.
to go there right after this.
It's unbelievable.
Okay.
It's one of those ones where I'm like, oh, this is a life-changing food. I don't want to get a burrito anywhere else.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's hard to find. I don't know. Like we go to Tapatio over by our house, and it's by the Eaton Park where I go instead of maybe Coral. Eaton Park is nice too. But that place where we go for our Mexican food now, it had been like 10 different things. And then finally, like it hit on something that worked. And we're like, okay, let's just stick with this place so it doesn't close down because we can walk there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I am a big fan of like local fare.
Yeah.
Of like seeing what I can eat around here and enjoying it. And God, I love talking about food.
No, I do too.
It's just one of my favorite things. And I could talk about it all day. Shout out to the ghost of Dave Thomas.
Speaking of food.
Fresh Never Frozen, yeah. Also a big fan of adoption charities.
Yeah, well, he was adopted.
Yeah.
He was adopted.
And so was Wendy, I believe, right?
Was Wendy? Yeah, I don't know. Or was Wendy supposed to be his mom?
No, I think it was a daughter.
Okay, his daughter.
think.
Okay, I'm not sure.
Ooh,
let's not libel or slander Wendy.
Shout out to Eat and Die Grand Canyon.
Oh, you hate the Grand Canyon.
It's not that I hate the Grand Canyon. I don't care about the Grand Canyon.
It's just a hole.
It's just a hole. It's just like
it's cool. I admit I thought it was just I was pretty. I liked it. And we went over the pandemic though, so it was like going somewhere. You can go to a big hole.
Well, that is exciting. Yeah,
you can't get COVID like in a big hole.
That's the most COVID experience. It's like, well, so we went to the big hole because we were, bored as.
Yeah, that's pretty much. That's the trip, and we
stayed
just
at go to the
big
like
hole.
8-hour drive. We just go. We could literally just go right now.
And we went to a ghost town on the way. Like, so that's
right.
the ultimate COVID vacation. You stop at a ghost town.
You left a ghost town.
Yeah, we left a ghost town to go to another ghost town and then go to a big hole. And then we stayed at like a cabin in the middle of like Flagstaff, in the middle of nowhere. It was like 7 miles off the main road. And I'm like, oh, we're going to die here. But
yeah,
but you
no,
couldn't
that's
get
how
COVID there. It was like that was like how distant we felt we had to be, you know.
I remember, like, because we look back now and we're like, can you believe people were wearing masks in their car? I'm like, yes, I can, because we were freaked out and people were dying all the time.
Yeah, I mean, this was in 2021, so it was our first trip, but it was like, how do we do this? Like, what do we do? Like, and then of course there was like a dude at the Grand Canyon like yelling at everyone for wearing masks, like, oh, you're you know, just he went to the Grand Canyon just to like get in people's faces for wearing masks, and we're like, this is what we're doing. Like, I don't know.
I love that I get to be the guy that's like, hey, little man, why don't you shut the up?
Yeah.
And then they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to let you talk to me like that. What do you really got something to say? Come here.
Yeah. No, he was, you would have had fun with him. And there was a big hole you could have pushed him in. So I really don't know. Maybe you should go to the Grand Canyon.
More murders should occur at the Grand Canyon than they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or unless they're happening and people never.
I mean, it might be hard to find out about them. Like, you know, if you go to the bottom of that, like no one's going to know.
A lot going on. But there's also a lot of people there. And of course, thank you to the Wandering Unpierced Left Nipple. Very interesting choice.
Do you know them personally or no?
The Wandering Unpierced Left Nipple. I will say this. That person most of my stories on Instagram.
What a nice person.
So yeah, I with this person.
Okay.
Shout out. And clearly that's the name he wants, so I'm not going to say his real name, but shout out.
Good for him.
I see that you heart all of my stories.
That's a nice feeling, I have to admit, you know.
Yeah, it is, because I always feel like I post a lot of the boxing stuff, and I'm just like, I did it. If I did it, you can, because I feel fine and I survived. And then people are like, yes, I'm gonna do it. So I get tagged. Inspiration. I try to be, but also it's like I know I'm also very small. I'm a smaller account. Yeah. So like I'm more of a cult experience for people. Yeah.
I think being a cult experience though is kind of good. Like, you know, I don't know. I feel like people who follow cult stuff tend to like appreciate that with a more depth than like the mass kind of thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, I have this conversation with my girlfriend a lot because she's a much more mainstream performer. She's a mainstream comic. She had the blue check mark on Twitter, was on Conan and stuff like that. And I have clearly a much smaller fan base, but what happens is my fan base is so concentrated that they're just like that they keep me alive and exalt me in a way that it's almost embarrassing, where it's like I'm just like I feel like I'm like I don't deserve this much support because I hate myself apparently.
Yeah. Well, you kind of have to be to do anything
good, I think so, yeah.
To do it well. I really believe that.
Show me an artist that really likes themselves and show me an artist that I don't want to hang out with.
Yeah, right?
Like, wait, you like yourself?
It's like, how?
You have a book coming out in June.
Yes.
Which is why you thought that we were recording in June. And I had to remind you that no, we scheduled this for today.
Yes. Which I appreciate. I'm fine with it. I just apparently, I usually keep a really great calendar, and I had June 13th in my head, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense. It's 2 weeks before the book.
Is it open for pre-sale yet, or?
It is open for pre-sale.
Okay. Tell me about this book.
Okay.
What's it about?
This is called the Jules Verne Prophecy, and this is a project I did with a friend and co-writer, Larry Schwarz. He lives in Montauk. We don't like hang out in person much, but we talk a lot. He was he owned an animation company and a toy company back in the day, and he got into writing, through the cartoons, like writing kids' book ideas or whatever. So this is like a passion of his, all this nautical and Jules Verne stuff. So he kind of had this idea, and then we worked out like how it could be a book and possibly a series. It's about a kid.
Holy I looked up Larry Schwarz, and the first thing that came up is biography of Larry Schwarz, convicted murderer.
Not that Larry Schwarz.
And I was like, what?
So I think there's two different spellings. His spelling is weird too. So like
he doesn't have the T. He doesn't have the T in there.
The T. Yeah, it's like Schwarz.
Yeah.
And so he's really into all things nautical and Jules Verne, and this was like his childhood hobby.
So he worked on a lot of cartoons.
Yeah, he did.
He did some Speed Racer stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
So he's got like that cred with this crowd that I don't.
I think you were trying to sell me on him for my show.
Yeah.
And then I was
I didn't know if you wanted us both to come on.
Oh yeah, that's right. And I was like, no, I'm sure he's awesome, but I don't know him, so I can't really have him on the This Is My Friend show because
it took me a minute to
Yeah.
get that. I'm sure you guys would hit it off though.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
No, he's great. And so he had this idea, and it's about like a 13-year-old kid who, you know, he's tagging along with his mom as she has to go teach in Paris, and she's signed him up for this class he doesn't want to do to like help his English grade. And through the class, he makes some friends, and they happen upon a book that's rumored to contain like treasure maps to Jules Verne, a treasure that Jules Verne hid in Paris. So it's kind of a mix of like, you know, national treasure and, you know, like
Say the Goonies.
the Goonies.
There
I mean,
it
the
is.
Goonies is what they have, I think, on the thing.
It sure is.
Yeah. And there is a very Goonies-esque scene in the catacombs of this book. So yeah, they go all around Paris. It's probably great if you have listeners who have, you know, kids in that. I would say like if the character is 13, the kids reading it are probably younger.
A little bit, yeah.
Because it's just you tend to like read a little above
Your
age
heroes
group.
are a little above you, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say like that 9 to 12 age range is where it's at.
Is this tied at all into like the fact that Jules Verne predicted so much?
Yeah, I mean that was
yeah.
what was like fascinating about him is if you read, and I learned all this because I hadn't read a lot of his stuff until I took this, you know, I started working on this with Larry. He predicted not just like big things like space travel or, you know, something else. There was like submarines.
Deep sea, yeah,
which
20,000
was a
leagues
big
under
thing.
the sea.
Yeah, he predicted things like fax machines and I mean the internet, which is a big thing, but he had a line in one of his books about, you know, something that basically describes the internet.
High-speed trains, the internal combustion engine.
Yeah.
Like he really sort of was like, we'll get there.
Yeah, and it's crazy. It's almost like, did he have a time machine? So, and that doesn't come into play here. But yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff with him in this book. And, you know, of course, like a villain who, you know, I'm not going to say it's like the Goonies lady, but because she's not. But
Because she's dead.
She's dead.
So it can't be the Goonies lady.
Yeah. But yeah, so they go on this journey around Paris. They solve crack codes and find clues.
Oh, so it's like this sort of like Da Vinci Code kind of piece to it. I love that. So it's treasure hunt. It's a literary treasure hunt.
Yeah, and I won't reveal what they find at the end. But yeah.
You don't want to spoil the ending of the book that you're trying to
ending.
sell? Yeah.
Not yet.
No.
I'll wait till the next episode we do. But yeah, so that one comes out June 27th, I believe.
I'm excited about that.
Thank you.
Can access this. And unfortunately, the first thing that came up is my least favorite website on the planet, Amazon.com. But you can look up, if you Google Jules Verne Prophecy, and then if you Google Iva-Marie Palmer or Larry Schwarz, then that will... Schwarz or Schwartz?
Schwarz, I believe.
Does he go by Schwarz?
I don't know how he says it. You know, like because I feel like I've said Schwartz and I don't think that's correct.
You should ask him.
Yeah, I really should ask him. I mean, he's told me, and it's like one of those things where I think there's no T. It's
He's not
Schwarz.
important enough for you to remember. I get it.
I'm a jerk. He'll attest to that. I'm a jerk.
Sometimes I'll ask people how to pronounce their names, and they'll say, "Oh, you know, it's whatever." And then I go, "You know, that's like incorrect, right? You know, that's not like the correct answer. Is like you have a name.
You're allowed to tell,
and you're allowed to tell me how to say it." So I don't butcher it. If it's slightly weird, I'll figure it out. I know how to produce sounds.
No, it's true. And I mean, it's just, I think I've always like, he's just gone by Larry. And I'm like, gosh, how I really, like, I don't know that I've ever even, he uses my last name. Like, so yeah, we should really work that out. But yeah, I do that.
Larry and Iva teamed up together.
Exactly.
How long did it take to put this out? To get this finished?
Oh gosh. Like when did we start? I mean, I think, you know, due to some, like our editor changed publishing houses. So I feel like we've been working on this for a long time, but all told, it's probably like a year of work.
My big question is, how long does it take to make a book? And I know that seems like an overly simplified question, but I do feel like, and I didn't want to ask this question at the top.
Sure.
I wanted to wait until we got through there. But my finish is, if I want to write a 200-page young adult book, how long is that going to take?
That's a good question. So, okay, if you have, I would say, like, if you have the idea, and I'm telling this to your listeners too, I am a big believer
that's how podcasts
in some
work.
kind of outline, right?
Yes.
Because I really think, like, I have started so many things where I don't have an outline. I'm like, this is great. I'm going to do this. And I stall out. Like as soon as it's like that line in Mad Men where she tells Don Draper, you only like the beginnings of things. I'm Don Draper when it comes to like writing a new draft. I like, the beginning was
so
great.
Many abandoned podcasts
and,
that I've made. Yeah.
You know. So, but when I do, I take the time and trouble to outline it, which I would say spend a few weeks, maybe even a month on, and then write it. You know, I'd say you can get a first draft together with diligent writing and not even like all day Stephen King writing.
But like what, 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day?
2, 3, you know, I always say like, try to sit down for an hour a day and like hit, 200 words. And then if you're feeling it, you'll keep going, right? And I tend to like to also stop though, before I've said everything I possibly can say, which I'm not showing here because I'm just talking and talking. But yeah, so I'd say you can probably get a good, decent first draft done in within 3 months. And that's with like taking some time off. And then I'd say, you'll probably want to put it in a drawer and then take it out to revise. Or if you have an editor, they will fortunately like look at your first draft, which is awesome. Or if you have a friend who's good at that kind of thing. But in terms of producing like a published book with a big like a house, like a publishing house, I mean, that's where it's like, you just wait forever. We finished the draft of this last year, and then you go through, copy edits and like another round of like copy edit. It's just, there's endless rounds. Like if you want to write a book, just know you're going to look at it and read it like 8,000 times before it sees the light of day.
Are you sick of the book?
You do get kind of sick of it. Like, I mean, now it's been put to bed and I'm working on the second one, but
when you say the second one, you mean
second in this series.
Volume 2 of the Jules Verne Prophecy. Okay.
Yes.
So now, is it going to be called the Jules Verne Prophecy 2, or is it going to have a different name that says like another?
I think it's the Jules Verne. The working title is the Jules Verne Prophecy 2 Maelstrom Mayhem.
That's a cool name.
Yeah, it's cool, right?
Very stormy.
Yeah, very stormy. And this one's set in Connecticut, in Mystic, Connecticut. So,
Mystic Seaport.
Yeah, it's very cool.
We can go to Mystic Pizza.
I know. I would love to be the author to do like the research trip to Mystic.
Go to Mystic.
I should.
It's great.
Mystic Pizza.
It's great.
The aquarium looks really cool too.
Yeah, well, Mystic Seaport, Mystic Aquarium. Yeah,
because that's figuring in.
That's like one of my mom's favorite places in the world to go to. Yeah, because
we're from near there. Yeah, we're from the East Coast.
We're from about. Even though we're from Massachusetts, getting to like Rhode Island is about maybe a 40-minute drive max.
Oh, that's not bad.
What's funny is you don't realize how big California is until you drive for 2 hours in New England and you've gone through 3 states.
Well, yeah, New England's so much more like Europe. Like
it's a horse.
Go everywhere
because it's old.
Yeah, it's old, and like here, it's like you could drive for 4 hours and not even be to the top of our state.
Yeah, dude, people ask me that all the time. I mean, I'm sure I've said it on the pod before, but people back home are like, "Hey, do you ever get up to San Francisco a lot?"
Yeah.
And then I go, "Oh, do you go to Baltimore a lot?" And they're like, "No, that's like 5 states away." And I'm like, "Yes."
People don't get it, right? But it's like whenever there's a weather emergency, do you get that too? Because it's like, there will be like a wildfire like 4 hours away.
You okay?
Is your house on fire? It's like, it's fine. Like it's really far away.
I tell people, I'm like, if my house was to get hit by any kind of fire, that would have to be a smart ass fire.
Yeah.
To like hop over all this concrete where it can't burn.
Oh yeah, like even the ones I have been able to see from our house have been still like really far away.
They're never going to touch your house.
Yeah, but it's just like any weather. Like when the rain was happening and there were all the mudslides, I'm like, I don't live on the cliffs. Like I don't.
Sinkholes we have to worry about, but not mudslides.
No, we're fine. Yeah. So, but basically, to just say about books, like the longest amount of time that you're waiting is like once you turn in that final draft and you get all the cover art and all this stuff, and then you have to wait. I feel like it's almost a year for them to get it out. And I don't know. I think some of that is just lead time to market it and get libraries to stock it and stores to stock it. And
do you think this will be a bigger event than 2020?
Gosh, I mean, even the one in 2020, I was done with that book in 2019. But Yeah, I think it
The
will be.
before
I feel
times.
pretty good about like
Good.
the publisher right now, like what they're doing, and they're excited about it, and we'll
Good.
see what happens.
I love it. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So if you guys got if you folks have young kids and you want to check out this book, it's coming out June 27th, 2023, The Jules Verne Prophecy. Ask your local bookstore
Yes.
to carry it. Yes, please get it however you want, but I'm going to ask you not to use Amazon as a personal favor.
No, and I think that's fine. I think bookshop.org is a great one.
That sounds way better.
Your local indie store to order it. And I'm even a big fan again of Barnes & Noble. I've been getting a lot of my books at Barnes & Noble because they actually have people in the store that give a crap about books.
People that are trying to keep bookstores alive.
Yeah,
too.
and it's a cool place. They do let you still hang out in there and, linger around. Or, if you don't want to buy a book, it's also really cool. Authors will tell you, request the book from your library because then your library will buy it.
Yeah.
And that's great for us.
Do you ever go to the Iliad?
I haven't been in a long time, not since the fire. I donated money to their GoFundMe since they someone tried to.
For those of you
light it
that
on
don't
fire.
understand, that is a local used bookstore that is just the best. And I give them credit for helping me win the Netflix game show.
Did they? How did they do that?
That's where I bought a bunch of those bathroom readers that are like weird
Those
facts.
Uncle John's.
Yeah.
I was obsessed with those as a kid.
I was too, but I was like, because all the questions I noticed when we were doing like the little run throughs were very much like questions you would have pulled from reading that.
Yeah.
And I was like, I noticed that habit. So I went and bought 4 of them used for like $4 a piece.
Yeah.
And I just spent the whole weekend reading those books and remembering all these like weird facts.
Then
when I went on the trivia show and they asked me all these trivia questions,
cool.
I plowed through it.
Are you going to try to get on any more game shows?
The rules for getting on game shows is very difficult.
Okay.
If I could win $250,000 every 2 years on a game show, I would.
Yeah.
I won't. You have certain times that you have to like wait before you're allowed on the next one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. I really wanted to get on like Wheel of Fortune, for example.
You could do that.
Yeah. I mean, but it's
That's
hard just to get the
surprisingly
audition
easy
because
to get
everybody-
onto Wheel of Fortune,
Is it?
though. It's easier than you'd think because you're local.
Okay.
So like you get to be like an alternate so much faster. I was in the Jeopardy pool when I was younger, never got tagged back when I was in Massachusetts.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I can't really do Jeopardy now because of it's a trivia game show. And
Oh, and you
that,
did the other one.
But at the same time, I've had friends that were out here that because they were local, it was just like, oh, we can get you right now. Like, we need somebody local. Let's go.
Cool.
And so they'd pull them in. So you might want to look into that.
Yeah, that's. I haven't watched it in a long time, and
Right, playing TV hangman. So we're gonna get going. For patrons, we're gonna stick around. We're gonna have a little bonus content where we're gonna talk a little bit about some sports stuff. That's okay. That's all right. I know that you don't even like sports. Hey, that's the name of a show I do. Do you have anything else that you want to promote? We have the Jules Verne Prophecy coming up. We have Gabby Garcia's Ultimate Playbook. We have Gimme
Everything You Got.
Gimme Everything You Got. We also have The End of the World as We Know It, which is another one that we didn't really have a lot of time to talk about.
That's older, and it's only available for Kindle. And if you don't like Amazon, it's,
Yeah.
But it's a good book. I do not. I want to thank you though, and and I think when you're talking about your Patreons, I think the people who listen and enjoy this show should absolutely patronize, be a Patreon. They're getting something out of it. It's a big thing right now when you look at all the writers' strike and that kind of thing. That we should really be paying for content.
It's so hard to
that we
create
enjoy.
something that most people are like, this is free.
Yeah.
And that's hard. For those of you that are listening to me for free, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It means the world to me that you're just giving me your ears and eyes. For those of you that are paying me money on Patreon, I like you so much more than those other ass. No, but head on over to patreon.com/JeffMay. I just revamped the Patreon with new tiers. The producer tier is a premium. We can also talk about how I have you get the Jeff May rookie card tier where you are literally going to be getting a care package from me every month, a personalized care package. I have been piecing them together. It's so much fun. I send a little questionnaire. People tell me their favorite teams, their favorite interests, and I send them all this cool shit from stuff that I've pulled out of packs, from stuff that I've come across.
Oh, cool.
Buttons, pins, merch,
Kind of like
everything.
Santa Claus.
It is a little bit like that. And we're gonna be going through some stuff too in that point. But check that out. You can also hear Unpopular Opinion and You Don't Even Like Sports, a sports podcast for people that hate sports, both on the Unpops Network, as well as Adam and I's monthly show, You Don't Even Like Sports Cards, a YouTube streaming show where Adam, Todd Brown, and I open packs of trading cards and we make fun of everything we do. It's a lot of fun. You can also hear me on Tom and Jeff Watch Batman on the Gamefully Unemployed Network. And if you want to see me live, Mint on Card is the second Friday of every month at Blast from the Past in beautiful Magnolia in Burbank, California. You just missed April's April 14th show, but next May will be May 12th, and that will be live, and that show is free, and we got a banging lineup for that as well. Iva, say goodbye to the free folks.
Goodbye, free folks.
Bye. Hey everyone, our artwork is created by Justin T. Brown, who can be found at Artness by Justin Brown on Instagram, as well as artnessbyjustinbrown.com. That dope music you heard is by Troy Nababon, available at Troy Nababon on Instagram, as well as at troynababon.com. Nababon is spelled Nababan, and boy does that shred. Thank you all so much for listening. See you next time.